I am 39 years old, and my wife is 37. We both met while we were in graduate school. I had a work study as a teacher's aide, and she was in one of the classes I was helping with. Right away, I could sense there was a connection between us. She would consistently stay late after class to ask questions, and I was getting a strong vibe from her, so I offered private tutoring. We officially started dating after that semester, and we got married 2 years after we graduated. We spent the past 15 years focusing on our careers and our family. We have beautiful daughters together, and we actually bought our first house not too long. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with throat cancer, and I had to go through some treatments to help with it. It was a scary time for our family, and I was very focused on the cancer and admittedly, nothing much else. I realized that was a problem, but I had practically been handed a death notice and I was anxious about it. I underwent surgery and chemo to make sure it was completely gone. However, the good news is I'm all clear and had a positive prognosis moving forward. The bad news is I feel like I have to start my life over from scratch because my wife cheated on me with our neighbor. I was in chemo for about 6 months, and during that time, I had lost a lot of weight. I was sick all the time, and I ended up having to shave my hair off entirely because it was falling out. I know that sounds awful to say because going through something like this is so challenging, but I couldn't stand looking at myself in the mirror. Before my cancer, I spent a lot of time at the gym, ate healthy, and took good care of myself. I never thought I was the most attractive guy in the world, but I was happy and confident with myself. Being myself after the chemo was a big shock, and it's still something I'm working to come back from. A few months ago, I really started to notice there was something going on with my wife. After getting the positive prognosis, all I wanted to do was spend time with my family and celebrate my life. However, my wife couldn't seem to make time for that. She always had some excuse to stay behind when I wanted to go to the movies or the park with the kids. I didn't let it get to me because I had this newfound sense of freedom in my life. I just wanted to spend time with my kids while I was still on Earth. I was really cherishing life at that point. One evening over dinner, I suggested that all of us go to the amusement park when it opened up the following week. The kids were obviously excited about the news, but my wife just rolled her eyes and said that she wasn't interested in going. I questioned it because I wanted to spend time with my family, but she told me that she had never been a fan of amusement parks, and she would rather just take the time alone at home to relax and read a book. I didn't want to start an argument, but I was a little annoyed with her. I'd spent months thinking I was going to die, and when I was finally okay, she didn't want anything to do with me. I ended up going to the park alone with my kids, and we had a wonderful time. Toward the end of the day, my youngest daughter fell and hurt her ankle. It was swelling up right away, and I thought that it might have been broken, so I took her to the hospital. I called my wife several times, and she didn't answer for once. Thankfully, it didn't end up being anything serious, and she was given a brace to keep on it for a couple of weeks, and we went home. When I got back, my wife was just hopping out of the shower. Right away, I asked why she wasn't answering the phone when I was calling, and she said she had fallen asleep while reading. Honestly, I didn't believe that for 1 second. Had she truly just taken a nap, she would have heard the phone ringing when I called her several times. With how everything else had been, I couldn't help but wonder if there was something more to her not answering. Later that night, when the kids were asleep, I outright asked her about it. I asked her if there was anything wrong with us so we could try to fix it, but she told me that I was imagining things and that she just wanted some time to herself. She abruptly ended the conversation and went to sleep. I couldn't sleep that night because I was trying to figure out what went wrong with us. All I could think about was how distant she had been lately and the changes in her behavior. She just wasn't the woman I used to know. Once I heard her snoring beside me, I reached over and grabbed her phone. I needed to see if I was really just imagining things or not. I looked through her pictures and her apps, and I couldn't find anything. But when I went through her messages, I found some concerning information. I saw our next-door neighbor at the top of her message list, which struck me as odd, so I clicked on it, and it told me everything I needed to know. He had messaged her a couple of months before about how he saw her in our hot tub. It was honestly kind of creepy how he worded it, but my wife was apparently flattered. He said he felt like she was putting on a show for him, and he was interested in her. Their messages progressed from there, and they made a plan to get together to see if their feelings could go anywhere. It was clear from the messages that followed that they were in a sexual relationship with each other, What was even more disturbing about it was that he was married with 3 children. Both of them were just throwing away their marriages. I carefully screen recorded their messages and sent myself the recording so I would have it for myself as evidence. We lived in a little cul-de-sac and everybody was pretty close. It wasn't unusual for one of us to throw a party or invite everyone over for dinner. So, I went to all of my neighbors and invited them over for dinner to celebrate my recent cancer-free diagnosis. They were all ecstatic to attend and were happy with my good news. The day of the dinner came and my wife and I were busy preparing everything for our guests. Everyone came and we mingled, drank some wine, and had a good time before dinner was served. During dinner, as the conversation lulled, the neighbor that my wife was sleeping with told me that I was lucky to get to spend so much more time with my family. He then complimented my wife on the delicious food and made a joke about how I was a lucky man. I took that as the prime opportunity to call him out and say that he would know. He pretended to be confused, but I could see in his eyes that he was worried about where I was going. I stood up in the presence of everyone and told him that I knew he was sleeping with my wife. My wife dropped her fork on the plate and nearly spat up her wine. She told me that I was out of line for even suggesting that, so I pulled out my phone and showed her the evidence that I had. Everyone else around the table was silent, but I could see that they were very interested in what I was saying. I had no doubt in my mind that they would go home and talk more about it. All the while, my neighbor's wife was asking him if it was true, and he was fervently denying it. I showed her the evidence, hoping that it would convince her that he was lying. Not long after that, everyone excused themselves from the dinner because it was becoming extremely awkward. My wife was trying to beg me not to do anything drastic. She didn't want me to leave, but there wasn't a chance in hell that I was going to stay. I was curious though, so I asked her why she did it. She told me that she wasn't attracted to me anymore after the chemo, and asked if there was any chance that I was going to give our marriage another try. I told her that I wanted her to get a hotel for the night because I needed to be away from her, and she agreed to do that. During the night, I could hear my neighbors arguing and his wife was throwing his things out of the house. At last, we did end up divorcing, and I kept the house. I'm still trying to decide what I want to do with it. I don't know if I want to sell it and move to somewhere else, or if I want to try and keep some semblance of normalcy for my kids. My neighbors also got divorced. His wife was thankful that I told her earlier because she didn't want to be with a cheating partner either. So this is my story. Did I handle this situation well? Would you have done the same? Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll see you again. Take care.